Have you seen the new Shooter Born in Heaven quests? Have you seen them ever before? Are you in a position where you're sitting here playing this video game and you see Nikita and the wonderful people over at Battlestate Games say, hey, here's a quest, let's make it even harder than it already was. If you are, that's probably why you're clicking on this video, but if you're not, well, it got harder. If you've never heard this before, it got harder. There's this little quest called Shooter Born in Heaven, or The Shooter Born in Heaven. A Shooter Born in Heaven? I believe it's one of those. It says it on your screen right now. It is a quest where, on several different maps, you are required to get headshots of players, not scavs, from a certain distance. Now, if you look at the quest, there are a few different maps. Some of them may be a lot easier for you than others. In fact, most of them you'll say, hey, I know exactly where I can get these headshots, and for a lot of reasons, you're probably just going to get them just because. So, we're going to look at a couple of things on one of what I would consider the most difficult map to get this done. Customs is this lovely little map where there's all kinds of different types of PvP action, PvE action, lots of tasks to get done, lots of little tiny loot pieces to get looted. There's some computers now with some GPUs and all kinds of stuff. It's a nice little place. It's a very popular map. However, what is not so popular is this task getting done here. So, I'm going to take you through a couple of spots that you may have been told about or may have heard of in the past and said, hey, this is where I'm going to get this task done. One thing that I'm going to show as much as I possibly can is where you can do these tasks while laying down in prone position. But we're going to start off with the positions that you can no longer do them at that used to be pretty popular spots to sit. So, first, we have a spot that pretty much, I think you can rule this out of every other situation. So, you have the fortress, which sits right in the middle. Some people will call it the Alamo, because it's kind of in the shape of the Alamo. It's also the place where everybody will congregate. It is the spot where the new goons will spawn, and so will Reshala. There are spawn points for both of them. And if the rare chance that you get both of them to spawn at the same time, they will fight each other. And if they kill each other, and maybe there's one left and you get to destroy them, there's a lot of loot there. That's beside the point. So, from the fortress, we're going to rule everything about the fortress out. So, from the positions that you can see from the fortress, pretty much they're not good for this task anymore. There's a lot of positions here that were about 100-meter headshots. They were still tough because if they got to the edge of where your distance was, is about a 99-meter headshot or 98-meter headshot. But for the most part, you can get 100-meter headshots from here. From here to the power warehouse in the glass room up top, to the crack house, to the skeleton, you can get 100-meter headshots pretty much all day. And in fact, I'd be willing to bet that the big reason why this changed was because of this piece right here, because again, while people call it with the Alamos, because everybody will congregate there. You'll see lots of players go there. You'll see lots of scab bosses go there. It's a very popular spot. Now, this whole place is pretty much rendered inert for a Shooter Born in Heaven. There's a couple of spots where you may get lucky, but I would say being in the fortress is probably the worst time to get that task done. Being around the fortress, you have some opportunities. So, let's take a look at those. So, if you look at the skeleton, which is a more central location to the entire map. The skeleton actually is a pretty primo spot for this. It always has been, but now it's even more primo than the Alamo or the fortress. In fact, it may be so primo that it's going to be pretty populated a lot. I'm not somebody who I would say is new to the game in the sense of I'm behind on tasks. I've actually been pretty far in tasks, and I hit Shooter Born in Heaven not that long ago. In fact, it's a kind of a low level unlock, but people don't start working on them right away. In fact, you'll see a lot of people working on them now, but you'll see people getting started on it for the next month or so. It's going to take a little bit for everybody, so keep that in mind. But that does mean that this spot will be highly contested pretty much no matter what, because people pass through here anyway. So, there's a few different spots you can take a look at here. If we take a look at the Alamo, as we just discussed, you're not going to be able to see that. However, you can take a look over towards Crack House. It's a much harder shot. I wouldn't try to take those shots too often, but it's a much harder shot. You can get it done. If you look over to the train, which is a very interesting spot, and again, we're going over the first pieces of what we can and cannot do anymore. If you look over to the train, you'll see that there's a lot of space in between you and the train. A lot of people don't recognize this because it looks kind of close. There's this weird thing that the brain does that if you don't see the ground beneath it, it sort of looks like it's a little bit closer, right? You don't really see that distance. It looks like it's there's not much room, but when you delete that space, it's actually it's farther away than you think. So it used to be about 100 meters from the skeleton, especially if you backed up towards the center of the building and looked over towards the train. So if somebody was hiding in front of the train or behind the train, it was a pretty easy 100-meter headshot. However, now it's just about 100 meters. So if you're really far back and you can still see the train, if you look just past the train into the divot, it's just over 125. That is a very risky shot, especially if you're not going to be rewarded with a task completion or a task increase or what have you. It's a risky shot, but it is still doable. I would count this as one of the spots that don't quite work anymore. That being said, there's still another few spots that you can look at from here. So, if you look over towards the stairs that go towards in the construction area right next to where you use the machinery key to open up and get the pocket watch out of the truck, that spot is by far you're safe. Pretty much any shot you take over there, it's going to be over 125 meters. So if you can see that and you can take those shots, great. There's a couple of other spots here that if you look over towards the train, that's going to do it, but not too many people sit at that train for very long, so that's a really tough headshot. While you're doing this task, I should also say that if you want to attach a rangefinder like you see on your screen right now, it helps quite a bit. And it helps not only know when you're at 125 meters, but it helps you learn exactly how you want to range your sight. A lot of people call it zeroing. It's not zeroing, it's ranging, but nonetheless, range your sight properly, it will help you hit those headshots. I'll also say that a lot of people use very high caliber rounds to take these headshots. It's fine, you can definitely do that so you can secure the kill, but I would say take something that is more flesh damage than it is piercing damage, because if you hit him in the armor, you might have another shot later to actually get that headshot. So anyway, I digress. If you look from here, you can see a few different spots. So look at the train, look at the stairs over to the construction area, and if you're looking to get really risky, this is a very popular spot. Like I said before, but the spot that we're walking to is actually even more popular. I've seen it done a bunch of times. It is extremely risky, but is incredibly advantageous. If you walk out on this beam here, you'll also see that you can see a little bit more into the warehouse, into the Alamo, but you can also see a little bit more in the train. More importantly, if you spin around, you can see over to dorms. That, by a long shot, will be an easy... I shouldn't say easy. That is an easy 125 meters. It's not an easy shot. You see somebody going up to third story, you'll be able to see a much cleaner picture of their head if you can take their shot. You also have a good angle of when they also step into the doorway, meaning you have a few more seconds to take that shot, and you don't have to hit them on a more horizontal plane. You can actually have them going away from you in the Z-axis. So take those shots carefully, but here's a decent spot, and also, you know, watch your back and maybe have a buddy with you because you are very, very exposed. Before we move on to moving away from the Alamo completely and showing you the rest of the other spots that don't quite work anymore, I want to show you one more spot. It's in the warehouse where you turn on the power. If you don't know what that is within the warehouse section where you have that kind of horseshoe of warehouses next to the unknown spot right in the middle, and the crossover that you need the factory key for, that building right next to that. Go upstairs from the opposite side of the crossover. That is on the side of the old gas station. You can see over to the Alamo through a glass window. Careful, this is a spot a lot of veterans will look at because it is a spot that is it's a pretty nice sniping spot. It's a little exposed. This is one spot that is going to be very difficult to shoot from because, as I said, I'm going to be trying to show you all these spots that you can lay down at. This one you cannot. It just doesn't work. It's the hole is just too high. So, from here, as I said before, the Alamo won't work. Even to the back wall, it's only like 118 meters. It's not very far. But if you look to the left, you'll see that there's a train. Again, another train. There's also a little marker there. Basically, the end of the closest train to you on the left, anything be close to you, closer to you than the end of that train is not 125 meters. If they're past the train, hopefully not right on the train, like on the edge of it, but just past it, that is all free gain. If you can hit any headshot while you're looking past that train, that will be an easy 125 meter headshot. That's also an easy place to get headshots specifically because you're at an elevated location. Elevated means you're looking more at the head, and if you hit something, it'll either be a shoulder or a head, basically. You won't be worrying too much about thorax, however, that will happen if you don't range properly. So take that into consideration, and again, like I said, be careful up here, even if it is a good spot. Alright, from here, we're going to backtrack a little bit. We're going to go over to the construction area where those stairs were that I mentioned earlier. This is also a very primo spot, which is, just like the skeleton, extremely popular location for players to converge on, but also a popular location to get a good vantage point. These are double-edged swords, and they pretty much always will be in this game. That's pretty much how this game works. So, from these stairs, you can look over to the skeleton. Same range, obviously. You can take shots there. There's going to be people up there probably doing this quest, and if you want to take those guys out, taking them from the stairs is an okay location. But remember, there's not a whole lot of cover up here, so be careful. And there's a lot of places to prone, which is fantastic. So now, there's a couple of things. If you prone right in the middle, right next to that stack of stuff right next to the stairs, you can get a pretty nice spot, a nice location angle over to skeleton. But if you turn around, you cannot see too much of the bridge, which is right next to the river, right above the river. That is a good spot for getting this task done as well. That's something to pay attention to. So if you want to hit that, you can actually go up a little bit further and prone right there. It is, again, very open, so you'll be seen from a lot of locations. However, if you want to snipe down that bridge, which some people will say it's a little bit safer, and some people will say it's totally unsafe. Obviously, when you look at it visually, the mind's trick and say, oh, that is wide up in the open, it's very high, it's extremely exposed. But in most situations, being higher than everybody else is the more secure thing to do. So a lot of people will cross that bridge. The one thing is, as you can see, there's a big traffic jam. There's a lot of things going on there. So there's a lot of cover. So you got to pick your shot very carefully. Also, just like the train from the power warehouse, there's a marker that will show that pretty much to the T, the 125 meters. So if you're at the edge of this stair area in construction site, you can see a bus that's pointing basically straight at you. From that bus, the tip of that bus is about 124 meters. So, if they cross that threshold, that is no longer a task awarding shot. It's very easy to see. You'll be able to see when they're past it pretty much every time. However, if you're not sure, try to make sure. And you can take that shot no matter what. Even if you don't get the 125 meters, you can try again later, but at least you're safe from those people trying to hurt you. Don't want that. So, take that shot if you can. Look at that bus. You'll also see another location, which we're going to go to right now, that is right on the end of that bridge. It's a little hard to see from where you are, and in fact, it's kind of difficult to tell if somebody's there sometimes, and that angle may not be proper. But from this location, from here, you'll be able to hop onto the guard shack that is on the bridge, basically the toll bridge area, or at least the maintenance shack, whatever you want to call it. To be able to get up here, you don't need to be that strong. As you can see right here, I'm only level 12 in strength, but I'm under the whole medium weight threshold, so I'm not very heavy. So basically, if you're doing this task and you're trying to get up here, your rifle, maybe some armor, and a couple of mags is essentially all you can carry up there. If you have stuff, put it in your backpack, throw your backpack in a bush, and just remember where that bush is. Doing this, the easiest way to do this is to back up into the location or the thing you want to jump onto and jump backwards. you can go right up to it and just jump backwards. If you jump backwards, your feet will, for some reason, be at its highest point. You'll be able to grab onto that. So do that twice, and then on the second jump, you're probably gonna have to be at the very edge of that height of the slanted tin. Get up there. This is another very exposed area, but like I said before, it's elevated, so you're a little bit more protected. You can then see the skeleton area, the construction area, but more importantly, you can also see down at the land bridge, which is kind of close to one of the spawns. This location is very important if you're spawning right next to it. So if you're spawning on this side of Big Red, or right next to the train track, you can get up there pretty fast before anybody is able to cross. The problem is, like I said, people will know about this spot and will be exposed. So, as people are crossing the land bridge, you got to be very careful because people will look at it. The good thing about this spot is you can't really see it before you start to cross the land bridge. You can, but you got to be in a very specific location. And essentially, you're going to be looking that way from that spot anyway, so you probably see them first as well. Now, from here, most of that area is 125 meters or more. So you can take pretty much any shot. One thing to note is if somebody has an endurance of like less than 20, they're probably only going to be able to make it to the pipes before they slow down. The problem with that is they also have a little bit of cover there. So what most people will do, and what most people do is in this situation, is they slow down and they start walking. So, if you take the shot before they go to the pipes, more than likely they're going to stay there and get their stamina back to run up the hill. You take the shot after, they may be totally out of stamina, or at least not be running at that point, and you'll have an easier shot. I'm not going to tell you how to get this task done in that situation. I'm just giving you spots to look at. You take that shot however you like. Everybody acts differently in these situations where they're running and getting shot at. Some people look straight out, some people peek, some people run, all these things. You can't really just say you know what's going to happen here because it's madness. So, looking from this position, there's all kinds of options. Take them as you will. This is a very good spot, and this was a spot where a lot of people did this task, and I think it is still a very viable spot. But remember that since spots are kind of going away, this will be something that people look at pretty often. So now, from here, you can jump straight down. Let's say you're in a position where you are getting shot at because somebody knew where you were, or you just feel too exposed. Trust me, I've been there. You just feel a little bit too exposed and you want to get a more secure location. If you just hop off there's a train car right behind you. Not the one directly behind you, but a little down the road or away from the bridge. Go the opposite direction of the bridge. There's a train car where you can kind of back up into in the shadows. You have a little bit less an angle of sight, but you can still see on the other side of the road, or at least the other side of the river. You can see a little bit going on there. You're not going to see people crossing very, very easily here, but you'll see them when they get to that side where it's safe to take that shot for the task completion. You also have a little bit more access to the left-hand side of the road next to the big blue UN gate. There will be people who run around there. In fact, a lot of people will hit the jackets in that little shack right there next to the construction area entrance with the two holes in the fence. That's something you can either try to camp out, try to look for an angle to hit that shot. You can wait for them to come out. You can take a lot of different, there's a lot of different opportunities here. But this is also a good spot to look at. Okay, now we're going to go to one more spot that doesn't work anymore. But at the same time, I didn't really know about it because I didn't really think about it. Because the spot that is just right above it is, it's better. Well, yeah, it's just better all around. So there's this little bush that, as we're walking into, as you can see, that looks right at the entire three-story stairs that goes into the three-story dorms building. You can also see most of the back of two-story as well. So it's actually a nice spot. It's a good spot to be a bush Wookiee if that's what you're looking at. I normally don't do that, but there's a lot of spots like this in customs. This is a decent spot to look for people coming out of dorms. Let's say you're one of the late arrivers, and this is something you just want to ambush people on. So if you take up this bush, it is like 112 meters, and as you can see, it's just under 125 meters to the building, which means that it's not going to be 125 meters to the headshot. So this spot no longer works. I actually didn't know about this spot until I was streaming and saw somebody. I was like, oh, does this spot still work? No, I didn't even know about it. It doesn't. But, funnily enough, if you go a little bit further back up the hill, you may be a little bit visible from certain locations, but it is just far enough to where you can see, even in my opinion, a better view of the entire stairs, and it is well over 125 meters, so any headshot there will also count. From here, you'll be able to do a couple of things, and I mean, like I said, it's just a good spot in general, so take this into account. Okay, before we leave this location, there's a couple of things to look at. This spot is just as primo, in my opinion, as the skeleton or as the construction stairs, because it is a high traffic area. So one thing you have to realize is you either want to bring another weapon that's like fully automatic, or maybe you're shooting an M1A or something that can take down somebody up close, essentially, is what you want to be carrying while doing this task. Pretty much on this map in general, but you know, just in case. From this location, you actually have a full 360 view of a lot of different areas. If you turn around from the dorms, you'll be able to see across the way. You can see a little bit of the gas station, kind of the entrance a little bit, but more importantly, you can see up at the power pylon. If you look at the power pylon, it is a little tricky because there's a lot of trees in the way, but you can see a lot of things going on up here. There will be a lot of people that may or may not be doing this task from up there. There's another spot there that I'll show in just a second. But more importantly, you'll be able to see the sniper rock, which is to the right of it and a little bit lower, which is where a lot of people just go because they can see just over the gas station. But you'll be able to see people coming over that lip, which is, there's 2 spawns over there that come directly here, and then there's a 3rd even farther back that will meet them there later. So you have lots of opportunities to hit these shots, or at least lots of opportunities to find people that are primed for that. A lot of smarter people will go the long way around, but some people want to take advantage of hitting the dorms while people are a little bit busy getting into a fight or looting or what have you, and they can take advantage of that. So if you get up on this hill early, and there's a spawn right next to it, you'll be able to look over that hill and get a good shot, hopefully. Okay, now from the pylon we were just looking at, this is actually a decent spot too. It's a little more exposed, but there's a lot of spots here as well. You can look at that bush, or that hill, that people are probably not going to camp at unless they're really doing this task specifically, and sometimes people will sit there because, like I said, it's a good vantage point. But I don't see it too often, so I wouldn't count on it. More importantly, what you can see is the back of the power building that we were talking about earlier that goes to old gas, and also connects to the connector between the walls between new gas and that warehouse. If you look at the back, that's obviously well over 125 meters. If you can hit a headshot there, that's a very small window, but it is possible. If you look towards the back of the map, you can also see that entire wall as well. It's shooting directly horizontal, left to right, or right to left moving, but it is possible, and it is there. Taking these shots are pretty safe too. Nobody's going to really know where you're shooting from if you're shooting at them. Somebody nearby can hear that and come after you, but, you know, you're going to know that that's going to be a danger no matter what. So taking that spot it's a little sketchy and there's a little too much going on, but it is still a spot where you can see a lot of things and possibly get this task done. Okay, so now we're going to go to a spot that can actually see that power pylon and sniper rock. This spot is a spot I've seen quite a bit. There's a couple of nuances to this. So as we go up these stairs, we'll be able to see a little spot where you can lay down. It's extremely exposed, but it is a decent sniper spot. A lot of people use it. I've seen it used a couple times. I don't use it myself, but if I have a group and I need to look over there because they're getting shot at, it is a spot I've used before for those reasons, not for this task. So if you're at the edge, it is roughly 125 meters. There's going to be a couple spots where it's not, so it's kind of on the edge there, so be careful. Obviously, if you're looking up at the pylon, it will hit that, so you are good to take the headshot there, but if they're down below and trying to sneak over to that ledge, it's not 125 meters. So what I like to do, which limits your vision a little bit, is I like to back up just a little bit. You also have these 2 tankers that are protecting you a little bit more than usual, at least, visually. So you can have these 2 tankers that are on either side of you for the train, and that'll protect your sides, but you can also look down in between the metal railings that look over towards Sniper Rock. Be careful, because, and I should have said this a while ago, but the couple of these spots are problematic for height over bore. If you're on a train track, if there's a little lip at the end of something, and you're prone, height over bore is very important. If you don't know what height over bore is basically what you can see is not necessarily where the bullet's going to come out of. So, if you're aimed right above a railing, you might hit that railing with your bullet as you send it. So, beware of that and try to look towards more of the open areas. Be sure to shimmy back or left and right and to get a better advantage, but basically anything you shoot over by Sniper Rock and Power Pylon is 125 meters. So if you could take those while somebody's standing still or taking a look over and trying to kill Reshala or what have you at New Gas, this will do it for you. That's a good spot. All right, there you have it. These are the spots where I think are the most likely for you to be able to get a Shooter Born in Heaven done on customs. Yes, I know that there's a lot going on. I know that some of you may have your spots, and other spots that I probably missed. I'm sad to say that some of them have lost. Some of them have left, I should say, are no longer viable because of the increase in meterage or range from 100 meters to 125 meters. But I would say for the most part, about 85% of the spots still work. If you have other spots you'd like me to know or you'd like me to add to another video, please let me know in the comments. If you want them secret, I totally understand that as well. But in the end, I hope this video helped you, and I hope you're able to get a Shooter Born in Heaven done, because I know a lot of people want to go after Kappa because it's fun, but also this is just a big, important task for a lot of people. I think a lot of people like this. I should also say that it's important to get your sniper skill up at least a little bit if you're going to be using sniper rifles while doing this quest, because that'll help a little bit with the sway, it'll help a little bit with your accuracy. And accuracy is very important for this task, obviously. Using weapons that are not broken is also important, because broken or low durability weapons will affect your minute of angle. Minute of angle is basically your error, your window of error of where that bullet is going to travel to within where you're aiming, because I've seen a lot of people that are like, my crosshairs were right on this guy at 200 meters, but it didn't hit him. I didn't see where the bullet landed, but it didn't even hit his body, so it wasn't that I wasn't ranged properly. You got to understand that there's a little bit of RNG now with there always has been, but now you can see how it affects it. There's a little bit of RNG in where that bullet will go, so the more accurate your weapon, which is why sniper rifles are very important, and why the durability of that sniper rifle is important, the better your shot will have, or the better chance your shot will have to hit that target. So, high durability weapons, high sniper skill, and all that will come into handy very well. Obviously, get yourself a rangefinder. Get yourself a scope that has a lot of zoom if you need to. But get something, as you can see in the video, I was using a Voodoo. That helps a lot. At the end of this, when you complete this, you get a magazine case, you get a pretty nice Mosin, another sniper level to add to what you were doing. Basically, a lot of stuff you probably could have used while you were doing this task, but in the meantime, you get a lot of cool stuff. So, with that being said, again, thank you all so much for watching. Please give us a like and show this to your friends. My name is Danotage, and I hope this helped you out quite a bit. Until next time, I'll see you. Have fun.